So after leaving the south rim of the Grand Canyon, we decided to stay another night in Kanab, Utah, so that our drive into Zion National Park would be just over an hour. When we got to Zion the next day, we drove the length of the park and finally found parking in the town of Springdale. We picked up the backpacking permits we reserved months in advance, scored a walk-up campsite for that night at the Watchman Campground, and then it was time to hike. We had the full day in Zion, and we ended up just doing 3.28 miles on the Watchman Trail, according to my watch, which was an awesome hike and a crazy cool introduction to Zion National Park. But it wouldn't even qualify as a warm-up for the days we had planned to follow. Zion Traverse, in air quotes, plan was to start at the West Rim Trail and finish at Lee Pass over 3 days. Normally, this traverse is done the opposite direction and including the East Rim Trail. And we found out why pretty quickly. We didn't include the East Rim just because of campsite availability, but it's very clear why you would want to start from Lee Pass and not from the West Rim Trail. We took the second shuttle from the visitor center around 6:15 a.m. along with every other tourist in the world. And everybody got off at the same stop, the grotto, at the beginning of the hike to Angel's Landing. We suffered through a crowd that made us feel like we were in Disney World, and we got some strange looks for our giant packs. But afterwards we saw under 8 people the rest of the day, and I had never been on a trail so stunning in my life. If you're going to Zion, 100% go past Angel's Landing because there are much more spectacular sights out there on the West Rim Trail, and you might even be able to find a little solitude. The route was almost entirely uphill, but it was so packed with views I felt like I hardly noticed, and I was kind of just in awe the entire time. It was incredible and we were stoked. We rolled into camp after 17 miles and 4,300 383 feet of elevation gain, which is the most I've ever done in one hike, being from Maryland. So the last thing on my mind was taking videos of our campsite. We were by a creek in the Wildcat Canyon area, and it was wonderful. There were millions of flies, and we got eaten alive, but the creek was sure nice. We cooked ramen and mac and cheese, we collected some water, and then we hopped in the tent to wet wipe our feet and avoid the bugs, and we just passed out. It was like 4 p.m. when we got into camp, and we were in bed early, and we needed the sleep. Luckily, we woke up next morning feeling good, and we were ready to knock out another big day. It started out mostly through the woods, and actually reminded us a lot of hiking at home. After we got out of the woodsy area, however, the trail turned into beach sand, and then the next 8 miles or so were pure suffering. The sand was getting in our shoes, there was almost no shade, and well, everything was beautiful in Zion and it looks really nice. The terrain was really tough. It felt like we weren't going anywhere, so it was hard to keep morale high. By the time we got to the Kolob Canyons area, which meant our second campsite should be approaching, we were exhausted and we just really needed food. We were to the point of like attempting to eat our melted peanut M&Ms. We needed to refill our water at the spring that was coming up, and so we were just kind of checking the map constantly. It hit about 97 degrees and we'd been walking in direct sun. So after 16 miles of walking, mostly on sand, we were pretty done. Campsite 5 at Laverton Creek was easily the most beautiful place I've ever slept, but it also had more ants than I've ever seen anywhere. And to be fair, Zion's website warned us about that one with Campsite 5. My camera was dying on the last day, so the videos I do have are super brief, but we hiked a brisk, beautiful 5 miles out with 1,000 feet of elevation gain, and our shuttle driver picked us up at Lee Pass. We finished our version of the Zion Traverse, and we headed back to town for some much needed food.